When I first started in real estate, I wish somebody broke down step by step the entire process of a subject to deal. That's what we're going to be doing for you today. Timeline and the process of a subject to deal. Here's what you should expect. Step 1, all the way through step 7. You want to stay to the end because here's the thing. I'm going to show you how you get paid up front by putting a subject to deal in your portfolio. A lot of people will shy away from buying a sub to deal and instead they'll wholesale a subject to deal because they go, I'm not ready to hold a rental, and also I want to get paid up front. So on this deal, the address is 3932 West Myrtle, so you guys know we actually do this business, and one of the things I'll give you down in the description below is the closing document so that you guys can see all the numbers associated with this deal. This house right here is the house that we're going to be talking about, and the story associated with it has been well documented. So as we go through these steps, the other thing I want to point out to you is the other videos that we have built around this entire house. I took the time, the energy. You guys DM me on Instagram and you say, if I just knew the exact process, the exact steps, the exact every little thing, it would help me so much to start taking action. So that's what we're going to be doing today. All right, so obviously we need to start. Now, where do we start? We don't start with trying to learn contracts. We don't start with trying to get a title company. We don't start with these things at the end. And I see a lot of people go, can I get a copy of a contract? I'm like, you really don't need a copy of a contract. I know that that is just like demystifying for a lot of people, but the place that you start is you have to generate leads. And another way to say the word lead is say opportunity. You need to be able to look at a lot of deals, okay? And the 4 places that I'm getting most of my deals right now, I'd say 80% of my deals are coming from these 4 ways. So right now, prop.ai is one of the ways that my team generates leads. What does prop.ai do? Prop.ai, through AI, have conversations with sellers. It will call sellers. Sellers think it's a real person, it's not. And prop.ai will generate leads for me with foreclosures, expired listings, all sorts of those things. I also use LOI Blaster. LOI Blaster goes not to sellers, it goes to agents. So prop.ai is for sellers. LOI Blaster is for reaching out to agents. Then I get a lot of referrals. In fact, I got a referral this morning from Eric, and I want to show you what I wish somebody showed me. Okay, I don't say yes to every deal, but I can make money on every deal, which is kind of cool. So check this out. Eric Martinez, one of my sub 2 students, sends me an address, 15886 West Ashland. Here's the mortgage rate. I go, ooh, that's a big mortgage rate. It must be a big, expensive house. And I can get into a big, expensive house for 20,000 bucks. Check this out. If I click on this and I pull up the address, I immediately know this is an opportunity, right? So you need to start with opportunities. I'm telling you where my opportunities come from. This is a referral from a student, and he says, I have a deal. And I pull this up, and look at this. This is a nice house, really, really nice house, but he's buying it for like $875,000. I don't want this house in my portfolio. It has an HOA, it's an expensive mortgage, but what I will do is if I go to pacemorby.com/buyers map, and you can see that I have buyers all over the country that go here and say, Pace, find me a house. So I actually, ooh, this is kind of cool. Check this out. Glendale. This person says I can afford $1,800. Okay, I need more buyers in Glendale. This person says they can afford $3,000. So I don't have a buyer for this particular house yet. But what I told Eric is I said, I don't want that deal. It's too expensive of a home for me. Do you have an inspection period? And that means you contracted with a seller. You have 30 days to have the ability to cancel at any time. He says, yes, I have 30 days. I said, let me find you a buyer. So I think I can find a buyer for that house and I can make $10,000 or $15,000 on that subject to deal without me putting it in my portfolio. The 4th way I get deals is people that post in my sub 2 community, right? I built a community. It is a paid community and I have deal after deal after deal after deal. I could probably find 15 or 20 deals a day that I could make money on just in the Facebook group for the private sub 2 community. So those are the 4 places I'm currently getting deals, okay? This particular lead actually came from LOI Blaster, okay? And the original offer was sent to an agent and the agent never actually replied to us. And so a couple of weeks later, we realized that agent got fired and it was an expired listing. So then we followed up and called the seller directly through prop.ai. So we generated a lead and we ended up having a first conversation with the seller. The seller's name, her name is Sherilyn. What's great is that this video will suggest other videos for you the entire time. Testimonial from Sherilyn. Why did she sell to me? Why did she let me take over her house? What is the structure of the deal? We have a whiteboard video breaking down all the numbers of this particular deal. So Sherilyn calls us back, and I have my first call with her is recorded and currently on YouTube. Okay, this first call was about 45 minutes, but we only put about 12, maybe 15 minutes of it on YouTube. So we have a first conversation, and during every first conversation with the seller, I ask way more questions than I speak. I'm asking questions like, what's kept you from selling the house? Why didn't you go through a real estate agent? What's happening? If you sell the house, where are you going to move? You'll see all of those questions in that video. My goal is also, my number one thing is I want to find their pain, because when you go up to the map, you've got a seller right here living in their house. Here's the seller, here's Sherilyn on Myrtle. This is Pace, and we obviously talk to Sherilyn and we start asking questions. Do you have a mortgage on the house? Yes. Do you actually own the house? Yes. Deed is the ownership, okay? Deed is ownership. She owns the house, but she does have a bank she owes a mortgage to. So I start asking those types of questions. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to find the pain that she has locked up and she's not willing to give me in the first 10, 15, 20 minutes. The key to opening up her pain is solutions and rapport and trust. That is the key. And I think that about 42 minutes into the phone call, on the first phone call, she finally tells us the real problem. And that is to be expected in almost every seller situation. It was foreclosure, okay? She's in foreclosure, and she had a lot of problems. So let's go through, and I want to tell you guys her main problems in a different color so you guys can see when somebody asks the question of why would a seller ever sell a house to you subject to? Well, Sherilyn has a bunch of them. The number one reason she wanted to sell is because it was too much for her. And what do I mean by too much? She bought the house in 2005. How do I know? Because I asked the questions in step number 2. How long have you owned the house? What's going on? Tell me, where are you gonna move? If I do buy the house, where are you gonna move? Where are you gonna go? I wanna know the whole story of your life. And she bought it in 2005 when she had kids. The house is way too big for her now. So there's a reason. The house is too big. It's too much. Make sense? It's so lost on new people that they don't understand that actually is a reason why somebody would sell their house. But Airbnb is what she decided, I'm gonna go turn this into an Airbnb. She goes and gets a HELOC on the house, a home equity line of credit. So now she has a mortgage payment and a home equity line of credit. The contractor that she hires to do the renovation to get it ready for the Airbnb ends up stealing money from her, another pain point. She then finds another contractor, she's spending money on her pension, and she's using her pension money to get the renovation done on this Airbnb. What ends up happening is she finishes it, she puts it on Airbnb, and it fails. Now, I'm not saying that Airbnb in this situation failed. I believe that Sherilyn's not an Airbnb person, right? That's not what she does for a living. She was a school teacher. How do I know? Find pain, understand, build rapport, offer help. Ask the what ifs, like what if I buy your house? What if you don't get the number you want? What if this, what if that? And I find all of these things, but I realize that she is losing money on her Airbnb because she's not an Airbnb professional. She's a school teacher who just retired. It's not where she's acquired skills. So for all of these reasons and more, here's another reason, she falls behind the payments. The Airbnb's not bringing enough money. She has now a mortgage and a HELOC. It's suffocating her. She's retired, so she doesn't have her full income. She only has a pension. So she's running into this situation of, I can't afford these payments. I'm now facing foreclosure. One of the biggest things that she was running into, I didn't find this out until the end of the first call, but what I found out is that she also has a father that is going through surgery, and her family needs her help in St. Louis, Missouri. So she says, I need to leave the house, but I'm stressed out by it and I don't know what the heck to do. And I tried to go through an agent. I tried to go through other real estate investors. I don't know what to do. Okay, cool. So what I did is I said, I'd love to help you. What was great is when we called her, okay, here, she looked me up online. She looked our company up online, and she saw a seller testimonial, another seller testimonial of me taking over somebody else's payments. And Sherilyn goes, wow, okay, this person's trustworthy, and she called me back. So Sherilyn calls me. I obviously have rapport, I have trust, I have all of those things, which then allows me to do this, the most important thing. I offered to help her. And I said, hey, I'd like to give you 3 solutions. I've got 3 ideas for you. And as I'm explaining these solutions, I was realizing that a lot of the stuff I was telling her was kind of going over her head. And something that's really important is when you are working with somebody that's never heard of subject to or seller finance or co-living or it's overwhelming to them. And the best thing to do is go on an in-person appointment. So that is step number 3. On the phone, you'll see, I ask her, hey, can I just stop by? Like, I haven't showered for the day. I look gross, but like, do you really care? Can I come over and can we sit there and I'll give you all the solutions? So literally an hour after I have the first call with her, I then get in the Prius and we drive all the way up to her house and we go to an in-person appointment. Now this gives me the ability now in person to look at the house, make sure that it is a house I want. I give detailed options. I wrote them all down. Now, somebody here brand new, you might go, Pace, this is really daunting. Like, I don't know how to generate leads. I don't know how to talk to sellers yet. And I definitely don't know how to go on in-person appointments. Well, first and foremost, neither did I. I did not know how to do those things. I wasn't born with that skill. I was nervous the first time I did it. The second thing is that you don't have to. Like, you could literally just get referrals of deals from students or see deals inside my community that somebody's already generated the lead, had the conversation, done the first appointment, done the follow-up, got the contract. You could skip the line on all of these things, just letting you know. You could skip the line on all of these things if you were just in the sub-2 community. You could just buy deals from other students in the community or do what I'm doing with Eric on that deal where I just get his deal. He's already generated the lead, talked to the seller, went on the appointment, did the next couple of steps all on his own. And then he came to me and said, hey, I did all this hard work. Do you want to help me sell this deal? And I'm like, yeah, I'll make 15 grand on all your hard work. So can you skip all of these steps? Yes, you can skip these steps as long as you are in a community of people that are willing to share deals with you. So I go on the first appointment. First appointment, I'm looking at the house. I'm giving detailed options. I take some photos, I take some videos, not because I'm really like curious so much about the house, but just in case I want to send it to Molly or somebody else on my team. I'll tell you who Molly is in just a second. I double down on the rapport. And the way I do that is I compliment her house because you'll see I get a testimonial from Cheryl Lynn. And we close the deal and I ask her for a testimonial. That's actually in one of the processes that we always follow. In the testimonial, she says, I just loved how nice you were about my house. And you actually said I had good ideas and you actually complimented me and that made me feel like you cared. And I'm like, I did. I went through the house, I complimented you. You did a great job. And she's like, you didn't beat me up. I didn't feel like you were trying to negotiate with me and lowball me. Like, that's the beautiful thing about creative finance. I don't have to lowball anybody. And I gave her a true understanding of subject to. I gave her a true understanding of her options, which were 3. Here's a cash offer, go through an agent, partner with me, let me take over the mortgage payments. So she went through those things and guess what I did not bring? I did not bring a contract to the house. I did not have to have a sub-2 contract or walk through the paperwork with her. My next step in the process always is right here. Wait and follow up. And you'll hear in the testimonial with Sherilyn later down in the series, she will say, I love that you didn't come to the house and make me feel a certain way. You gave me so much time to breathe and really think about it. So I gave her space. I didn't even check in. I was about to check in with her and I'd say like 4 or 5 days went by after our in-person appointment. And I was about to text her and go, hey, do you have any questions, right? This is the best way to check in with somebody. He's like, hey, do you have any questions about our appointment? If you don't go with me, please let me know which way you're going and maybe I can provide a resource to you. That's how I follow up. I'm always trying to find the best solution for them. By the way, was a good solution for her to go through a realtor? No, absolutely not. This was an absolute impossible deal for a real estate agent. Unless you were a real estate agent that understands creative finance, then you could have made all the money I'm making. So no, a real estate agent could not. Impossible for this to be solved with a listing. Impossible. So I told her, I said, if you need resources, you need something, let me know. It also was an impossible deal for a wholesaler, and I'll tell you why. The number she wanted, and more importantly, the number she deserves, okay? Sherilyn is a retired school teacher, my friends. We want to make sure that we get our sellers the best possible number available. And when you're a wholesaler, the only way you make money as a wholesaler is For every dollar you take out of the seller's pocket is the dollar you get to put in your own pocket, okay? That is how it works when you're a wholesaler. Now, I'm not saying wholesaling's bad. I've wholesaled hundreds and hundreds, maybe a couple thousand deals. I did wholesaling primarily, okay, all the way back in the day in 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, I was one of the #1 home investor franchise owners in the country. So I've done a lot of wholesaling back in the day. Okay, I love wholesaling, nothing wrong with it. But the only way for me to make money as a wholesaler is to take money out of the seller's pocket. So seller says I want $450, and I go, well, the only way for me to make my $20,000 assignment fee or my $30,000 assignment fee is for me to take it out of your $450. So then I lower to $410 or $380 or whatever. In creative finance, that's not how it works. The seller says, I want $450,000. The number is not important to me. How we get to that number is important to me. And that is why creative finance actually solved Sherilyn's problem, and she loved it, okay? So again, you can skip all of this to step 6. You never have to do this in your entire life. You never have to learn any of these skills in your entire life. I'll give you a good example. Elena Tang and Kirk Tang, students of mine of Sub 2, they came in and they go, Pace, we're busy engineers. We don't have the time to do all of this stuff. I go, yeah, just skip the line. She's like, what do you mean skip the line? I go, it's a strategy. It's called skip the line. And she goes, what do you mean? I go, just have somebody like Pace or Kevin Cho or Tyler Townsley, Eddie Marin. I could go on and on. We have probably 5,000 Sub 2 students that are only working on finding deals. And they don't necessarily want to own most of those deals. They want to wholesale those deals. And she says, really? I could do that? And so Elena Tang and Kirk Tang went and bought 24 Sub 2 deals, put them in their portfolio all within 12 months. They bought all the Sub 2 deals from Sub 2 students. They got all the money for their down payments and their closing costs and all that stuff, also from Sub 2 students. And so they're like, this is the greatest thing that we've ever done in our life. You can also skip the line. Okay, so if you're out there going, Pace, this sounds daunting, you can also skip the line. The way you do that, join the Sub 2 community. Link is down there below, okay? So before I checked in with her, she reached out to me. And we ended up having a second call, okay? We ended up having a second call, and this is where that second call happened. By the way, I'm gonna tell you the same thing I've been saying. This second call was probably an hour-long call, and it is so good. It's an hour-long call. We ended up putting, I think, about 15 minutes on YouTube. Close the contract. So this is the next step, is I close the contract. That is a very harsh way of saying what I do. But the way I do it is I have this call, and on the call, I went through and I explained to her the process, and I went back through what I talked about here, what I talked about in person, what I talked about on the first call. I reiterated a lot of the things that I said. And then I had a closing line. I asked her the closing line. I said, are you good to have me just have Molly reach out to you and we get the menu started? That was actually my closing line. And she said, yes, let's move forward. Let's get the deal done. And so what my next call is, okay, I have a top tier TC. Her name is Molly. And I get my top tier TCs to help me do all of this stuff. And I want to give you guys a really great resource. If you ever need a title company or a TC in your area, Molly will tell you the title company in whatever state you're in and a top tier TC that she has personally trained on my methods and my paperwork and all that stuff. Molly will connect you with those two things for no cost. Like, she will help you out with that. Now, you're gonna have to hire a TC, transaction coordinator, and you're gonna have to pay closing costs. But email Molly at pacemorby.com and just say, hey, Molly, either A, I'd like to learn how to be a top tier TC. We have a TC that makes 50 grand a month. Transaction coordinator, not on my team. She's in our community and she makes 50 grand a month just helping other people do their paperwork. Molly will tell you the title company we use in any of the 50 states plus Puerto Rico. Molly will also connect you with any top tier TC that she has personally trained. So Molly sends the contract, okay? The agreement. I never call the contract an agreement when I'm talking to a seller, but this is the way it works. Pace calls the seller. I introduce myself, I talk through her problems, I ask her all the questions, I find and uncover her pain. We went through all the things I uncovered. I then go through and I give her the options. Those options are in the call. She then says, okay, on the second call here on step number 5, she says, okay, I'm ready to go. So what we do is we send this contractor agreement to Sherilyn. Sherilyn signs that agreement, and we take that agreement and we send it to the title and escrow company. So this is a title rep, this is escrow, and this is their assistant, okay? Title is the people who are doing the insurance. Escrow is the people that are managing and doing all the things I'll talk about in step number 6. And then they always have an assistant. So I take that contract and I open escrow with EMD. Okay, this EMD was, I believe, $5,000. And I borrowed that $5,000 from a gator. If you guys want a list of gators, I'll give you that in the description down below as well. That's who gave me the EMD for this deal. Okay, I didn't have to come up with any money. I didn't have to use any of my own money. The EMD was given to me by a gator, okay? So now we've officially started the transaction. And Sherilyn signed the agreement, I've got the contract. We then do something that is really interesting. We start one of those Slack channels. Every one of those addresses on the left-hand side has a specific channel that my team can communicate with. And so now again, a lot of the things I'm telling you, you are sitting here going, this is frustrating and overwhelming, and this sounds like way too much to learn. I get it. I had to learn it too. I had to go on appointments and screw up 1,000 times. I had to do all of those things. And I did all of those things while running a construction company. So I get how frustrating it is. But again, can you cut the line? Yes, you can absolutely cut the line. You don't have to go through all this arduous journey of learning all these things if you choose to do so. You could be like Elena and Kirk Tang or hundreds of my other community members that just buy deals from other students, okay? You don't have to learn any of this stuff. You literally don't have to learn how to talk to sellers. You don't have to learn paperwork. You don't have to learn that. Just jump into the community. You can buy deals from people. Then at this point, this is really interesting. I don't really start underwriting a deal until we open escrow. And I know that that sounds crazy. A lot of people think, well, I have to underwrite and I have to comp and I have to do all these things on the front end. I've just learned, and this is really important for you guys to understand from a process, I've learned over all of the years that I will go and comp and underwrite 100 houses to get one under contract. So I thought, why don't I just get houses under contract, open escrow, and then go through and comp and underwrite those deals instead of wasting a lot of time on the front end. I'd rather spend more time generating leads and getting on the phone than I would comping properties. And I'll tell you why. You close the contract, you send the contract to the title company. What ends up happening now is that the title company goes and looks at all the records in the world. They look at credit records, they look at UCC1 filings, they look at county recorder, they look at every record to get you a title report. And a title report from the title company is going to tell you all the problems with this house. It's going to tell you, yep, she does have a mortgage. And so this is what this one told us, okay? They said, yes, she does have a mortgage, okay? So they checked, they verified that for me. Yes, it is the correct interest rate you're thinking. I think the interest rate we took over is like 3%, something along those lines. I'll break that down in another whiteboard video, giving you guys all the details of every little intricate number. I don't want to underwrite a house until we've gone through actually one of the hardest things to go through. You guys think the hard thing to go through is generating leads, conversations, appointments, follow-up. You think that's hard. It's not. It's not until you get a title report that all the challenges actually begin, right? They do all the good things. They verify the information that Sherilyn told us, but then they also found 1, a lawsuit on the house, 2, another lawsuit on the house, and 3, a lien from another lawsuit on the house. So here I am. This goes through. I'll give you guys the timeline. Check this out. Start to first call was about 1 week, okay? We sent out an offer to an agent. The agent never replied. I think it's because they were in the process of getting fired. Then we used prop.ai to get a hold of her. A week later, Sherilyn had looked me up. She had looked at a seller testimonial I did, and she calls us about a week later. From first conversation to first appointment was literally 1.5 hours. I had the call, and Eric and I immediately jumped in our Prius and we drove up to the appointment, okay? Then the wait and follow up was 3 to 5 days, right? Then the second call, that was about 1 week later. So in order to get a contract, start to finish, really 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So it took 3 weeks. Right here, this time frame took 3 weeks. All right, that took 3 weeks. The process of opening escrow And starting this whole entire thing to figure out these things, the lawsuit, the lien, that took 2 months by itself. So I want to point something out there. If this takes 3 weeks and this could take 2 months or even longer, you don't have any clue how hard it is once you get a house under contract. You have no clue. It is very challenging. And if you want to be me and like control the whole process, it's very, very hard. If you want to cut the line and just buy deals from other people, it gets a lot easier. But at the same time, you're not learning all of these valuable skills. I think these valuable skills are transferable to everything else in your life. So I prefer to have gone the hard way, and I prefer to own the process, meaning I can generate a lead, I can get a contract, I can build relationships with sellers. That is a valuable skill I'm grateful and glad that I acquired.
Message.
Okay, but it doesn't mean you have to do it. You can cut the line. So these lawsuits took us 2 months to overcome. I had to hire an attorney. Where did that money come from? That money came from a gator. I went to a gator and I said, I need another $5,000. And that same gator gave me $5,000 here, gave me $5,000 here. I got a private money lender, a gator, to help solve the issues. We were communicating with the seller, and this one's a big one. You have to wait and assume issues are gonna pop up. When you are about to close a transaction, you have to assume that transactions are going to have issues. What happened here is that a couple of years ago, Cheryl Lynn, when she was taken advantage of this by this contractor, she said, you know what? I'm not even gonna finish the renovation. I'm just not gonna finish the renovation. I'm just gonna sell it. And so she goes out and she starts answering postcards and cold calls from real estate investors, AKA wholesalers, and she gets a wholesaler to buy her house. The wholesaler opens escrow, right? Starts the transaction, and then never performs. Why? Because he bought the house way too high with cash. And so he goes, I can't find a buyer, I can't sell the deal. That's what wholesalers do. So that wholesaler then goes away, she's stuck, she goes to sell with another wholesaler, and the wholesaler does the same thing to her. So now she has 2 memorandums on the property. And then we find out that there was an illegal deed transfer. Another real estate investor tried to rob this lady of her ownership, and they did a quitclaim deed. And it was just a mess. We found out all sorts of things, but I'd say 99% of the deals we do, we find something in the title report that needs to be fixed before we close escrow. 99% of them, okay? Especially people that are going through foreclosure or some sort of hard situation, there's always going to be something in the title report. So again, this is the actual hard part of a real estate transaction. Once you open escrow, this is where the challenges start. Most people are like, I got a contract, I'm so excited. I'm like, when you get a contract, it's like getting a ticket to a horror show. And the horror show is the escrow process. It is a freaking nightmare. And we've done thousands and thousands of these that we're not surprised anymore. We're just not surprised. We expect it, we wait, and we assume. And so when a deal, something like this pops up, Cheryl Lynn was like, oh my gosh, you're not gonna cancel on me, are you? And I go, no, we're gonna figure this out. We're gonna solve this problem. And so we spend the next 2 months solving the problem, getting an attorney involved to go to these stupid wholesalers and removing the lawsuits, removing the memorandums, removing the lien, all of those things. And we communicate with the seller every single week. So anyway, we put all this together, we solve the problems, and then this one's really important. I run all my numbers on a deal, and I run those numbers first, because I not only want to give Cheryl a little bit of cash, I had to catch up her arrears, I had to close escrow, I had to hire an attorney, I had to cover EMD, and I also wanted to pay myself $15,000 up front. And so a gator brought me my $15,000 up front, and I got paid $15,000 to do this process. My gator also paid my top tier TCs. Literally every single thing was paid for by a gator. And so running my numbers and saying, this is how much I need, I will show you that in the whiteboard video breakdown of all the numbers of a sub-2 deal transaction, okay? So in this transaction, here's what ends up happening. Yes, we have the contract. Yes, we've opened escrow, all of those types of things. What ends up happening is we have solved her pain, right? We've got rid of her foreclosure. We figured out how to get her the number she wants. Title and escrow have gone through and found these issues. My team has come through here and we've solved these issues. We hired an attorney. Then the title and escrow people say, okay, we're good now. we can transfer the deed ownership to you via subject to. Literally, a subject to transaction is that simple. It is just the title and escrow company checking on the title report, clearing all issues, and then transferring the deed to my name. That's it. That's as simple as I can put it. The mortgage in the bank stays in the seller's name. Seller moves out. Seller moves on with their life, and they go on with their life. The mortgage stays in their name. I now can put a tenant in that property, and I can fill that up and I can cash flow. I made 15 grand up front. I have a deed in my name. I have full control and ownership of the property. I now get all the tax benefits. If the property goes up in value, I get all of that, right? All the ownership benefits are me. I own the property. So all of this stuff so far, every single one of my sub 2 students that are finding these deals will do all of that for you and then bring the deal to you so you can just put in your portfolio, or they can let you move in the house if you choose to do so, okay? So we then close escrow. Closing escrow means finalizing the transaction. It means the transaction is done. What happens is everybody gets their money. The money is distributed. I always, before the seller gets their money, I ask for a testimonial. I then sign final docs with the notary. I then get the utilities turned on. We get the contractor scheduled. We get the property manager. And then I get a nice, tasty check for $15,000. Now in this process, I want you to know I've brought in a gator to not only cover all of my costs and pay myself 15 grand, I also brought in enough money from the gator to cover my first 2 months of payments, my first 2 months of utilities, my first 2 months of landscape maintenance, all of that stuff. So I literally have a buffer that I don't have to worry about not getting a tenant in there right away. And I raise that money from a gator. I then structure the deal in a way that I bring in more money than what it costs me. Now, at the very end of this process, if you look up the county recorder's office, who is the owner of a subject to deal at the county recorder's office? The owner of this property is Pace, right? Pace is the owner of this property. And I'll give you a quick cheat code. Just go to startwithprime.com. That's the company that I use. They do all of my LLCs, my corporate structure, and tell them, can you give me a map of exactly what Pace is doing? And they'll give that to you. Startwithprime.com, and they'll help you get your LLC set up. Okay, cool. I feel like we've done a good job of this. Do we understand the process and the steps of how challenging a sub 2 deal can be? I'm telling you right now, if this is a traditional real estate transaction, there are so many more steps involved in a traditional real estate transaction. Subject to is the easiest real estate transaction you'll ever do on the planet. And the reason being is you don't have appraisers, you don't have inspectors, you don't have banks going in and like requiring you to give pay stubs, and you don't have any of those really challenging parts to a real estate transaction. This is actually pretty simple. It's the most simple way a transaction can be done, but it is the full process. Start of a lead to the day I make 15 grand, to the day I also get my tax benefits, my cash flow, and all of those types of things. Gosh, this makes me want to go out and get like 10 more deals this week. I can make 150 grand in 1 week by just buying 10 deals from sub 2 students and getting paid 15 grand up front, putting them in my portfolio, making $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $2,000 per month on each house. It's crazy. I didn't even need a drink of water until right now. Appreciate you guys so much. We'll see you in the next video.